concerned about not ending up spending the night here. What we'd like to do is to talk about the problem set, and then the specific questions on the project. I'll be happy to answer these as well. Maybe let's start with 2 words to be on the project, because that was the question that we asked on before, and then I jump to the answer for setting up issues. So, what is allowed during the project? Right, you'll have to sign this declaration that's going to be the actual project, just like now in the sample project. I don't intend to have any change of wording unless we find out today that I should change something. But the wording says that you will not communicate with anyone else in written or any other format on any issues related to this project while you work on the project. And not just while you work on the project, but basically from the time that this project is posted onwards to the time of latest submission of the project, 7 p.m. on Friday, July 4. And of course, even if you have submitted, you're not allowed to talk to anyone else, but the else also is allowed to talk to you about the project. So that I would like to ask you to please take very serious. Up to then, of course, I strongly encourage you to work together, to study together, but when the project starts, really determining any form of communication with anyone else. But the question as to whether you could use ChatGPT, I would say yes, you can, because in principle any software is allowed for usage, and it would be very difficult for me to control in any case what kind of software you're using. It may be that for some questions there could be indeed some hint with the use of ChatGPT, but I would also think for the substantive problems we're probably not get a whole lot out of it. Maybe better text, but that's fine with me, because I think what I'm looking for mostly anyway is the algebraic work. That's here and there, of course, some computation of results, which will boost that up by sending to ChatGPT also dictionary type text out of my comment on the graph of the federal funds rate or whatever series that might be. That I don't have a problem with that, because that's not the core aspect, right, of what we are doing in this course. I'm always learning more about the capabilities of AI as well, but my understanding at this point would be that ChatGPT will not do the specific algebraic questions that I'll give you, because they will not probably have not that specific model, but that will be your data from the project. That they have gone through all variants of Haber models, of Weaver models, of different leg orders, and so that my application at this point at least would be that we will not do the algebra for you. If I'm learning after the project, actually ChatGPT does do the algebra for you. My mistake this time, and then another attempt next time. But from that perspective, that's fine. And then again, if instead of math or data, you don't use any other software, that's fine as well. Of course, in the use of software, make sure that you're not engaging in any human interaction with anyone else, because you're not allowed to put a question, say, in the form of Daniel, and ask someone if you have some idea from so this or that problem. That's of course communication sometimes, right? That will not be allowed, but as long as it's strict interaction with artificial intelligence and not any person, that's really good. What's that? That is what probably address the question.
Yes.
And in that context, if we are at it, before we now switch to the problems that we other work, and then get back any questions on the format of the project, any uncertainty on that part that we have after having seen the section. Because issues of substance, if you have some specific question on something on the sample project, we can talk about that later, but in terms of overall structure, and questions that responded with one that not the case, then I would say let's move into the problem set. And of course, what we had, yes.
Can I ask, like, the format of the questions look like questions that appear in the problem sets you gave us, but like, so we will do it separately, right? Because they are math questions, so we would like write or type it up and then send the file, and then we do another thing with MATLAB or Junior or something like that.
I mean, for the algebraic questions that probably will be able to do with pen and paper, it's fine with me if you do it in handwritten form and then scan it, just scan it down so that I can read it. I'm not looking for you to necessarily type that up. If you feel more comfortable having typed it up, I want to understand the way of typing it up. But it's not an expectation. We could as well just do that again with pen and paper, but please just make sure that the scan is good while you're not in some weird angle from the camera of your smartphone or the like, so that I can read it straight. The other stuff, that involves use of software, data, MATLAB, for that you would please submit the files, so that in case of doubt, if I wanted to run it, it would actually run. And it would give me some error code, and at the same time you have submitted empirical results, and I couldn't replicate those. Right? So for the software questions, please submit the code, so that if I was to run it, I get exactly the results that you say you would get it. And when you answer the questions, and then again when it comes to the comments on those questions that you interpret this or that result, if you put it in the handwriting, that's perfectly fine, and scan it if you want to type it up. That's fine too, that's not accepted. The main thing is for me that it's in a bigger form. That's the issue.
And actually, back into GT, this time can be a lot more work in the math. It can solve many different ways. Like when I start with one of your questions, something about the maximum likelihood, and we have one case like apply where we have learned that we have to have the initialization for y0, for example, that is 1, and then you suggest us another way of using it into like a matrix, like bar, it also can do that. And when I even asked it like, are there any other possible ways? So it mentioned other methods.
Well, in this specific context that we now are using as an example, be careful, right? Because if you write a higher order VR as a first order one, that's perfectly fine to study population dynamics, right? If you want to study, for example, all the eigenvalues of the smart inside the circle, this is zero VR, or some eigenvalues that you have ones, by one VR, then it's fine to use a higher order one to first order. But if I ask you to estimate the model, but in the estimation you will always have the various coincidences, either of the observations directly or some transformation of the observations. Now what happens if you say we use the second order VR to get a higher order system in the first order VR, right? The second block of equations is just an identity. So that's a deterministic relationship. That whole system doesn't have the non-singular variable transformations. So if you were to write down the likelihood routine that says I'm inverting this transformance matrix, I'm afraid that's not going to be right, because that transformance matrix by construction is simple. Right? So in this specific context that you were just citing, I would not advise to go that alternative route of saying that we reduce the higher order VR to a first order system. In other contexts, for example, I had a VR question and it was about the population dynamics, we will be able to either study that the second order VR directly or the reduction to the first order system. And then of course the answer is fine, right? That there's not just one specific way of answering the question. I agree with that fully. Just in that specific context in which you pose the question, you will not do the liquid estimation of higher order system reduced to first order because the variance of those liquids will be single factor structure. So you cannot invert that variance.
I just want to share.
Which doesn't mean that there's only one solution left, right? There's probably still different ways how to handle all of that. So no, I mean the main thing is that it's consistent, that it leads to the answer that has been asked for. Definitely will not be the case that I say that you follow the sample solution or not, and if you do, you get points, and otherwise not. I'll really be specific answers that I'm seeing, and if they are consistent and lead to the right solution, make sure that formalities are right, that sometimes because it could happen even if you draw expectations of further treated everything as deterministic, you might still get the right answer. But I would still want to see that you will see at some point that the underlying system is stochastic. Right? So it should be max. The result is right. It's just as important as the result. But yes, there is path, and that's what you do. There's no explanation that I would exactly the same way as one of your peers and yourself did on the whiteboard in one of the problem sets. That's not the point that we have to get specific. Okay, so then on to the problem set. We have a couple algebraic problems on those problems that relate specifically to the solution, right, of rationalizations models. And the first one is a single equation rationalizations model with a lag-dependent variable as well as simplification. And a specific process, of course, the one for the shock term in that rationalizations model. Per se, what hopefully we'll see is that you apply the idea that when we have both a backward and a forward path, ideally you eliminate the backward path to reduce it to the forward system, solve the forward system, and then piece together for the backward path. Part A is a bit easier because you don't have a backward path, because you can set these equal to 0. So that's just kind of warming up, but it's also about a pure forward component, and then we get to the part of the backward as well. So, of course, I'd be happy if one of you wants both parts, but part A, if you have a choice, you should quickly raise your hand so that you see to call yourself part A because it's about less short than part B. And if you say you want to follow the mode of the classes and have everything written down simultaneously, if you think that's enough space that we now have on those whiteboards, of course you could also have the moment here right away forward question 3, which is the system, and hopefully recall in that context that in the material, in the lectures and the problem sets, so far we have these systems where you have either all roots of the matrices C and F inside the unit circle, or all of them for the matrix F outside the unit circle, while the roots of the matrix is inside the circle. First one didn't be like a mixture. a mixture of items that have some inside and outside inserts. This is basically a question about decomposing the system that has those types of items into those parts and just working about the items inside and those the items outside.
So can I ask which microphone I was using because Lynn and cannot hear anything from our class.
You have which question?
Yeah, those students who joined the class online say to me have the class say anything because while we're talking.
I hope they hear it, right? Because we have this.
I think
That box was set up.
So what you're sharing right now is
You guys online hear us before we have a response, right? I think that never was a response, and they just stopped it.
they cannot say anything, they cannot hear anything.
My microphone will come.
Anh nên nói thầy mở cái mic của thầy thử. Mình hồi nãy thầy làm cái mic. Thầy mở là
I think I should activate after all my speaker.
Miss Kuhlman said that you should say roaming the microphone.
ý là thầy meeting ở đây rồi nè, là thầy cho cái meeting rồi là thầy nói trên đây là phải nghe chứ. Ý là cái lab của thầy là thầy nghe. Ý là cái mic đây là để nói thầy luôn. Ý là cái mic là cái loa của cái phòng này. Mua on thử thầy hỏi thì mute, kêu thầy mute thì mở cái đó, mở mic đó. Tắt một cái đó. Hợp lý á. Hợp lý á.
So Professor, can you test it? Can you say something? Let's do it.
Bị quản lý của mình á, tụi mình cắt mấy cái đi. Mấy đứa
Hôm nay đâu có ăn một đó.
đúng rồi đó. Chính xác luôn. Say something.
Everybody's looking. Can you hear us online?
Nhắn tin đi right. Chứ giờ tắt mic.
Đi tụi nó cái gì? Em tụi nó cái gì?
Rồi ok.
And only now, not before. You'll get everything recorded that was said in the first period by your peers. We haven't yet done any substantive work. We talked about the formalities of the project. A couple questions on that, but that's again the peers who are here. We'll share all that information with you, and I think that per se we do not get response from the center. Okay, so we'd like to work on question 2. you
share
have
the
your screen that can be written onto. So we should see it if we. I guess I need to stop my screen sharing, correct? Right? Then should be possible to come in with the new screen. So far we have seen a screen with your.
Okay, yes, yes.
Yes, now we have a chat window. Within the chat window you see the scan which is on the side, on the upside down,
hiện
very
hiện tin nhắn
small.
luôn, nó hiện nhắn luôn.
Maybe you could zoom in even a bit further, right? Or you guys are perfectly happy already with the size. You could try to zoom in yet a bit further. Now, even if you can't see the whole thing at once, just guide us with it line by line.
Can you see my screen?
We can see it, but it's very small. Could you zoom in yet further?
Okay.
Yeah, that's, I think, good, right? Good for everyone? Yeah, so please go ahead.
This is okay. Max?
Yes, you want to comment a bit, or?
Yes. Okay, I will present my data. You can see that is our situation rising and how I have the base that right was zero and it's different zero. So our quality should be optimized will be exam sensation. Quality is 1 plus 50. So I transfer this to that sensation of quality is 1 because 1 of the exam quality minus 50. And then as we now we don't have pricing response, so we use for consideration. It is my divide. So we have the general amount of pricing equal to some rate of we of 0 to maybe of we cover G exam sufficient of BT J. Then beside that we have equation Z equal to 3 plus all in the A and BT minus 1 plus SLC. So the total of BT J equal to over A and BT J minus 1 plus SLC.
I think that's a small, not consequential, but a small typo. Should be epsilon t plus j. Right, when you write t plus j, to mu plus or a times t plus j plus 1 plus epsilon t plus j.
Yeah. And we have the final of BT J So we have YT, and we have YT equal to square normal J, which is all between the power of J, and inside the bracket is we have power A, power J, and VT, and then we separate this bracket into two parts. We take the outside of supervising the is the number and stuff. And this the same with VT, and we have two square here, and we less than 1, and the sandwich, the second part. We have this equal to 1 over 1 minus all of A times B. If all of A times B is than 1, and then we plug this into the equation. Here we have this, and this is the final solution of the top A. Addition B less than 1 over A. Sorry, because I forgot the understand of this.
Absolutely. Okay, any questions from your side on part A? Beyond, this factor that we noted, that it should be B plus J, that we should provide some B plus J. If you can scroll down a bit then to the
Yeah.
lower part.
Scroll up.
We
Move
No,
up.
first from Eastern, we still have a couple comments on the, if you scroll down a bit,
Yes.
please.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know about the equation number 1. Number one, learn. Yeah, up, yeah. I don't know why, because we still have the expectation of YT plus, yeah. I don't know why it disappeared.
So as you keep plugging in, right, so forward, further, from YT plus 3 to YT plus 4, YT plus 5, eventually if you solve for YT plus 8, right, then this is a 2 to the power of 8. And that brings less than 1, that value will tend to 0. So that part drops out, and we only have the part left in the example.
If less than 1, so power just.
That's the part. Now, then if you can please scroll a bit further down, still stay on the left. So, any current here on the VT plus J equation, directly replace V plus 1 VT plus J minus 1 plus an epsilon 2 plus J that we have.
I think that's not mu only, that's J.
There's some more moves,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
If you plug in for VT plus J minus
Some.
1 into VT plus J minus 2, that's also a function
Yeah.
of mu. Right? So it's more than just the mu on the right hand side of the equation 2.
Summation.
that would be rather a function of the mu plus point A, mu plus point A squared, right? So that part is here missing, and that affects the part in the intercept. Of course, you can say that the main thing here is to solve in terms of the interpretations of the Gaussian surroundings on that part, the length part that I'm perfectly agreeable with, but the part on the mu indeed needs an extra term on the right hand side. Right, if you plug that in step by step, recursively, for b plus j minus 1, into b plus j minus 2, and so on, you get that additional term. That's applied to
So I think final the parameter the something sao ta, cái coefficient của cái mi á, can you move up to the final solution for the A?
that affects them always. Right?
Yeah.
Once you have corrected for this here,
Yeah, that
then it goes all the way through.
yeah. The final because I have the different solution.
You should have the same solution
Yeah.
for the part on the B,
Yeah.
but for the part on the mu,
Yeah.
you will have a different.
Yeah.
Okay, then I think then we can go to part B, please.
Professor.
Sorry, one moment, there's still a question.
Lynn, wait for me. Can I ask I have used different approach by I assume because I feel like
You want to look at us? Maybe you're ready to discuss different approaches, see written down and verbally, or you think you can describe it verbally?
I think it's kind of a bit long, but I can describe it, and if even if I want to know that. So it's like, I assume that the process of heating is also a linear functions of Vt, because it looks like so. Like Yt equal to alpha multiplied by Vt, and then we try to find that alpha, like trying to guess the solution. Because it's also like...
So this is in general, this would be called method of undetermined coefficient.
Yeah, undetermined coefficient.
And you get to the same result?
Yeah, but somehow I like
Except for the new part.
yeah, the new part. Yeah, because when I use that, it came to the state that we have to say that mu must equal to 0.
That should not be necessary. But I think, I would personally say go for a method of undetermined coefficients. It's simple recursive schemes don't work. But if simple recursive schemes like here work, right, you plug in for that BT process, then I think that's going to be in general an easier path to continue. So my recommendation in that context would be not to find a way to make your method of undetermined coefficients compatible with the resolution on the root part as well, but rather to do instead. Because per se, what you have is you have two undetermined coefficients, right? The one on Vt and the one on V, within just one equation. I think there probably still is a way that you can postulate some coefficient also mu, and then verify to be exactly the same as what you obtain with these recursions, but it may be a bit tricky. Then doing the recursions, right? Because you have two undetermined coefficients within one equation.
Yeah, because the way that I assume the solution is just like Yt equal to alpha.
Yeah.
Does that
I mean, what you might be able to do is if you first set mu equal to 0, right, get the solution of the Vt part. This doesn't depend at all on the mu. Then do a second round of undetermined coefficient on the mu. That should probably work. Right? In the first part, we just set mu equal to 0 because it doesn't affect then use that, and then say, okay, now I have to solve for another coefficient, immediately one on the second step. And then that thing should work. You can use that procedure. Personally, I still find it more complicated than doing the equations, but that's up to you. That's the step. Okay, then I think we are ready to go for part B, please. Are you still with us? Can you hear us? Then?
Because you mute the microphone.
Không, như cô biết kia.
Oh,
Cái
okay.
này nó cái này nó bị của thầy.
Đi của cái kia.
Linh ơi.
This is my
Yeah.
Continue with me.
So we'd love to see your part B.
Last one will be to present because I have a pretty strict idea it's not that I just so-called beta and three, but after I got the solve that I could solve. That's why
Okay, so does someone else want to do part B?
Con bi kìa.
Can I ask because can we choose specific A and B before we do that, or we have to solve the generalization case?
We can start with choosing a non-zero, right? Not A or B zero. They don't need to be non-zero.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, of course.
And go ahead with that, it's just non-zero.
Yeah, can we give it a try?
Cô ba có bạn nào làm thật sự không được. Điền lên có cái để thiệt sự thôi cho nhanh.
Sửa lẹ đi chứ không
Ừ,
lẹ
lẹ.
thì mai thì con phần á, mà tuần sau ấy rồi.
Đẩy nhanh tiến độ đi chứ này hơi chậm nữa. Tại vì
Còn cái sample của khách mà mai thầy con cần cả ngày á, cho nên mai không có gạt ra được đâu, mình không cover hết lại thì cho mình nói sao cũng được, cứ show đi để mình sửa.
ai làm rồi lên lấy đi. Ý là chị cũng có làm nhưng